A woman was banging on the door, yelling. Then a single shot rang out. What happened in that Miami high-rise apartment wasn't random. It was personal. And a witness caught every second of it. Welcome, lambs. Welcome to Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide, your Florida Man Friday edition. Hi, my name is Kai. Take a seat, kick your feet up, listen all the way to the end, and if you like it, don't forget to subscribe. You can also subscribe on our Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder for free, where you do get benefits for being a free lamb. But if you want to get deeper into the cases, get case files, bonus episodes, be a sponsor of Love and Murder to help me continue bringing the victim stories, then go ahead and sign up to one of the bonus tiers that we have in our Patreon and join the Lamb Fam, patreon.com/Love and Murder. Now, without further ado, let's get into your Florida Man Friday. A DoorDash driver in the middle of a routine delivery had just witnessed something horrifying. Quote, "I just made a delivery and there's a woman. She's bleeding. She was banging on a door and then I heard a loud bang like a gunshot. Now she's on the floor holding her neck. There's so much blood." Within minutes, Miami police officers arrived at the scene to find a chaotic situation. A female victim lay outside an apartment building, bleeding profusely from a gunshot wound to her neck. Police immediately radioed for medical assistance while establishing a perimeter around the crime scene. Quote, "Anytime we have a shooting on any street and someone is injured, it is of great concern not only for the community, but for those in law enforcement that is here to protect the public." First responders from the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue quickly transported the critically injured woman, who was not named, to Jackson Memorial Hospital Riders Trauma Center for emergency treatment. Meanwhile, additional police started investigating the crime scene. Quote, "It's amazing that she's alive. This bullet entered her neck, and it's fortunate it did not enter her spine. The bullet's location in her neck required immediate surgery because medical personnel said that the bullet was still in her neck and it was dangerously close to the victim's spinal column." During the investigation, police interviewed the DoorDash driver, who was their only eyewitness. Imagine you're a DoorDash driver. You're just trying to deliver some food. And now you become the witness in an attempted murder case. Like, can you imagine? I mean, after the fear and everything dies down, dude, you have a story for the rest of your life. The man explained to police that he had been making a routine food delivery to the building at the time of the shooting. He said he rode up to the 31st floor in an elevator with the victim. During the brief elevator ride, he said the woman appeared, quote, "visibly agitated and angry." And then when they got to the floor, he witnessed her immediately go to a specific apartment door. Quote, "The man alleged he rode the elevator with the victim, whom he said he saw angrily banging and kicking the door of one of the apartment units." The delivery driver described how the confrontation quickly went from riding the elevator to going to the door and kicking on it to getting shot in the neck. After seeing the victim forcefully kick in the door, he heard a single gunshot. And then after that, he saw the victim clutching her neck, which was now pouring blood. Because he didn't know who had even shot a gun and fearing for his own safety, as would anybody, the delivery driver immediately stopped, dropped, and rolled. Because, I mean, I wouldn't remember what my school said back in elementary, what I was supposed to do in what situation. So they're just all going to culminate in one. I know I'm supposed to stop, and after stop comes drop and roll. End of story. So anyway, he dove for safety. And from where he was, he could actually see everything that was still going on. And he stayed there until the police arrived, which, look, dude, I don't blame you. I might stay there until the police escorted me to my house. So I don't blame you. So after they took his statement, police went and investigated the building. And inside the building, they found a blood trail, which started from where the victim had fallen all throughout the 31st floor hallway. Following the path, police were led directly to a very specific apartment door. When they investigated who resided at this apartment, they found it was 22-year-old Lareine Barbie Cruz. Police immediately established a tactical position outside of her apartment. They identified themselves, Miami Police Department, and told Lareine to come out with your hands up. Detective Rodriguez, who headed the initial response team, said, quote, "When we encounter a shooting scene with this much blood loss, we treat it as potentially fatal until medical professionals indicate otherwise." So basically what he means is they were treating this as a murder investigation, even though they didn't know if the victim survived yet or not. Officers then secured the elevator to prevent escape and basically cleared all other apartments to make sure that everybody else was safe. Then building management also provided floor plans and key access, allowing police to be able to coordinate their approach from multiple angles if they needed to. So if Lareine didn't give herself up and they needed to have another approach, they had a backup plan. At first, Lareine had barricaded herself inside the apartment. Then police negotiators were able to establish communication, and she realized she really had no option. It was like, you either come out or this is going to be Thelma and Louise without the Louise. So you have a choice. So after approximately 47 minutes of negotiation, Lareine chose to surrender. She opened her apartment door with her hands raised above her head, and police immediately handcuffed her. Quote, "The suspect complied with all verbal commands and offered no physical resistance." When police entered her apartment, they found the gun that they believed to have been used in the shooting, a 9mm handgun registered to Lareine. The gun was found on her kitchen counter alongside a partially emptied box of ammunition. Wow, was she about to shoot some more? Also, police documented a single bullet hole through Lareine's front door that aligned with the victim's neck injury. Forensics teamed, photographed, and collected evidence throughout the scene as Lareine was escorted to a waiting police car. So, basically, WTF is going on? How did it go from, I'm delivering food, to all of this? What happened? Well, according to the arrest report, it all started with a tangled web of a love triangle. The man connected to both women told police that he'd been in a relationship with the victim for about 5 years. Then, 2 years ago, he started seeing Lareine. And the three of them eventually started into a polyamorous relationship. But that arrangement didn't last. The man said he'd recently broken things off with his original girlfriend, which was the victim, due to, quote, relationship issues, and decided to stay in a monogamous relationship with Lareine. According to him, that breakup didn't go over well. I mean, now, Lambs, tell me in the comments, if your dude cheated on you with some woman, okay? And then he came home and he's like, look, baby, look, baby. I don't want to leave you, baby. I love you, girl. But what I want to do is I want to date this other girl, but I still want to date you. You think we could go poly? And you bit your lip and you put the frying pan down because you was about to bust him over the head with it. And you said, I think you're worth it. All right. I'm going to try this out for you. I love you. I don't want to lose you either. Blah, blah, blah. So you go into this polyamorous relationship with him and this girl. Then this beep, 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 beep decides to break up with you, saying relationship issues. And not only break up with you, but then he decides to be faithful to the woman he was cheating on you with. I mean, is the breakup going to go over well after that? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Police said, shocker of all shockers, the victim had become jealous and confrontational. You think so? Then it came to a head early that morning. Oh my God. Wait till y'all hear this. Around 6 a.m., the man was out on Lareine's balcony smoking a cigarette. Well, how did the victim see this? Because the victim lived directly across the hall. What is going on here? Jerry, what is going on? Dude, you just had them living across from each other and you thought you were going to break up with your girlfriend and be like, you know what? I think I'm going to be monogamous to this other person. So don't look across the hall if you don't want to see us doing anything, okay? What the? She allegedly screamed out, quote, "That's what you want to do?" loud enough to be heard across the building. I mean, truthfully, you shouldn't be screaming your whole business out in public like that. Kind of gotta, rein it in, control yourself. But I mean, if you're gonna take that whole long trip to go up to this girl's apartment to kick on her door, then I guess you don't care. Not judging. I've done that twice in my life where I was screaming out in public because this person had me so angry. So I have done it a couple times, but it's not really my MO. So I understand emotions get high. So wanting to avoid the drama, the man went back inside and left Lareine's apartment shortly after. I mean, a better way that you could have avoided the drama? Literally not cheated on her, just leave her and then maybe get with somebody that's not right across the street. I don't know. Just my opinion. But even though he did that, the situation didn't end there. Later that day, Lareine reportedly called him saying, quote, "Come get your girl. She's outside banging on my door." And that's when things exploded. According to investigators, the victim never entered the apartment. Detectives said Lareine, quote, "fired through the closed door, striking the woman blindly in the neck." The bullet was later surgically removed at the hospital, but the woman's long-term condition wasn't immediately clear. Basically, she's alive still, but they don't know if, there's going to be any long-term issues. Quote, "The evidence suggests she made a conscious decision to discharge the weapon knowing someone was on the other side." And the prosecution's charging decision hinged mainly on detectives saying that Lareine, quote, "blindly fired through the door without visual confirmation of her target." Meaning you can't say you were doing a warning shot. You can't say, I was just trying to shoot her in the leg so she couldn't come get me. You didn't know where you were shooting. For all you know, you could have shot her in the head, which you almost did because you shot her in the neck. So that's what the prosecution is looking at. At her initial court hearing, the presiding judge denied Lareine bond, citing the severity of the charges and saying that she was a potential flight risk. As of the last update, Lareine was being held at Miami-Dade Corrections, and unlike typical county inmates, she was placed in a segregated housing unit due to the high-profile nature of her case. She's facing charges of attempted second-degree murder and use of a firearm while committing a felony. Her next court date was set for December 2nd, 2024, but as usual, except in all 5 years, I only got one case where it actually happened on the date it was supposed to happen. But anyway, I didn't see any updates, and there's no information yet on whether she's entered a plea or retained an attorney. The prosecution faces the challenge of proving that Lareine acted with, quote, "depraved mind," which is a legal standard for second-degree murder in Florida that requires showing extreme indifference to human life without premeditation, which, I don't know. I would have to know this person more. I would have to know their backstory about the victim and about Lareine, So it could be a backstory where Lareine really feared for her life. She thought this woman was going to kick the door down and beat her with a sandal or something. I don't know. So it could have been that she felt she was acting in self-defense, or it could have been that she was like, well, I'm going to pretend this is how I'm acting, and I'm going to shoot her through the door and try and take her out. Then I have what's his name to myself. This is all alleged, and this is just my opinion. I'm saying because I don't know these people. I don't know their background history. They didn't put that in the report, in any of the reports. So I'm just trying to figure out, she could have been doing it in self-defense or she could have been doing it in premeditated murder, just trying to use the cover as self-defense. The reports also didn't mention any trial updates, defense arguments, or sentencing details. So for now, the case is still open, and I will put it in my list of cases to keep updated, which I'm so horrible at keeping up with. Oh my God. It's really hard when you don't have a co-host and you're doing everything alone. So I'm going to put this in my case to follow up with updates, and I will just keep looking back at it periodically. And that is all I have for you for today. Let me know your thoughts on this crazy case in the comments below, and your comments will be read in a future episode, so I look forward to reading your comments. And before I go, I know people usually ask me, like, what's my favorite episode, and I don't usually have a favorite episode because I know this is going to sound bad, but it's really for my mental health. Usually once I'm done with a case, I forget about the case unless it's put into my list that I have to check for updates. Then I actually write a TLDR for each case so I can remember it. But I forget primarily about what happened in the case because I don't want to keep that weight on me. You know what I'm saying? So Thursday I was doing a TBT for the social media. I just chose randomly a really, really past episode. And then I realized, you know what? I do have a favorite episode. If you are a new lamb, then you don't know this, but if you're a returning lamb, you heard this case. So at the last episode of season 3, I interviewed a woman whose boyfriend murdered their kid. He was 15 months or so. And that was my only interview. And I interviewed her and she talked about the case. She talked about the intricacies that you don't see in reports. You don't hear normally. So we got the inside scoop on this case. And then after that, the first episode of season 4 was the actual case. So those two are my favorite episodes because you actually got to speak to the person. I know I'm usually yelling at the mic, telling the victims' families, I understand and I empathize with you and everything like that, but I actually got to speak to a victim's family, and it was somebody whose child was taken from them. And it's interesting that I just remembered about this case. Not that I forgot about the case, but, it came back up in my wheelhouse because April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So, I put that as a TBT. So if you're new here and you haven't heard that case, I'm going to put both of them, part 1 and part 2. The interview is part 1. The actual case is part 2. The links to them in the show notes below, so you can listen to that. And again, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So, I think it's kind of timely to listen to these episodes and hear it actually from the mother of a victim. And I actually asked her, what does she think of true crime podcasts? I literally asked her that. So if you want to hear her answer, go ahead and listen to that episode. It's in the show notes below. If you've heard it before, but you don't remember it, or you just want to listen to it again, links to it are in the show notes below. And as always, thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. Thanks for being a lamb. Thank you so much for your support. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.